I came back from the dead and nuked ex-fiances life insurance money plans.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Throw away for obvious reasons. So I will start this story by saying that I don't think I'm a good person, and a story with some collateral damage. But this is a story about one bad person getting revenge on another bad person. Backstory. 1. Left square bracket 34 male, now vertical bar was raised by a single mom, because dad passed away when I was younger, but vertical bar had many male role models in older brothers, and he left behind a generous life insurance policy, so vertical bar largely had a good upbringing. However, I was not ever very social, and from my early teens I spent a lot of time in front of my computer. This habit got worse as I went to college, and it resulted in me spending 80% of my time gaming, working, reading, or whatever on a screen. As a result, I was not very attractive and quite obese at the age of 20. For these reasons, I never really dated, and did not even lose my virginity until I met my ex-fiances. On top of this, I was raised very religious, because my mom became really religious after the death of my father, so I always thought it was a bad idea to play the field. The only thing that going for me was that I had become somewhat proficient in several coding languages, and expanded on these in college. I would not say that I'm a good person or coder, but with a little bit of coding knowledge and a lot of creativity you can create residual income streams, and I had a decent job in it where I could work from home 3 days a week. At the age of 24, I was still overweight and a social reject, but through my mom I met a woman from her Bible study that would eventually become ex-fiancé, 36F, Mouch. We hit off and started dating. She had a 2-year-old son at the time and they became the only thing in my world that I cared about. It did not take me long to get physical, lol. All those years of pretending I was saving myself went out the window when I finally had the chance to lose it. To be honest, she really broke me out of the shell I had become more sociable within a couple months of meeting her. I even took on a fatherly role for her son, and within 6 months of dating she got pregnant. Being the religious person I was, I immediately proposed and wanted to marry before the birth of the baby. Then she dropped a bombshell on me. She was still legally married to a guy in prison. This did not bother me too much as she had always talked about her troubled past and thought I would be the one to save her from it anyways, so I just took this as it came with the territory. She began the divorce proceedings shortly, and we planned to get married as soon as those were finished. I was riding high after the baby was born, and I thought I had really carved a place for myself in the world. Even started losing weight, and spent less time online than ever. She was always kind to me, and I thought we let each other know everything we were thinking. Boy was I wrong. There were a few red flags that I was too love-struck to see one. She told me early on that the only reason she got involved with my church was that she was on probation and had pending court cases and thought it would help her case too. Despite me earning a comfortable 6-figure income with side projects and my main job, she insisted that she keep her part-time job and my mom had to help me take care of the kids to deal with it free. She knew way to zero many people. I like what suburban mom with a secretarial job has 200 contacts in her phone. 4. We kept delaying our marriage due to sick relatives or other issues, although she did go through with the divorce to the prison guy. Then something happened that shook me out of her spell. She got pregnant for a second time, and this time with twins. We had only been with each other for 4 years and we were about to have 4 kids, 2 more than I thought I would ever have. She claimed she was on birth control at the time, so we were not using condoms. Anyways, after the twins were born I started seeing my doctor about a vasectomy and my ex-fiance encouraged it. I wanted to get some swimmers frozen before the operation, because we could completely change our minds in 5 years. So I go in for the visit and the doctor comes out to tell me that my sperm count was low and they were mostly immobile. but this problem might be temporary and I should try to eat a healthier diet and stuff for a few weeks and come back. When came to the second appointment and the same problem arose, the doc started doing some investigating, but you know where this is going. The doctor says that it's likely that I'm infertile. This turned out to not be completely true, as I now have a child that I know is biologically mine, but it still propelled the following events. I mentioned that I had 3 biological children and the doctor looked anxious and started talking, but I was in shell shock and did not really know what he was saying. I think I left the doctor's office before they were even done with me. I did not even get in my car, I just walked until it started to get dark and eventually called an Uber to get home. My fiance was worried and already asleep inside, and I just lied to her and told her my car broke down, phone died, and I was at the mechanic late and forgot to let her know. I fell asleep and woke up the next day and immediately got on the computer to research similar stories and started to give myself false hope. The first post I read was about how fertility assessments are not true and I should 100% get a test. I thought for sure this would show the doctor was wrong, but I got the test back and within a week I knew the kids were not mine. The first person I told was my mom. I went to her house and cried for the first time in my adult life. She consoled me and then told me a story that I was never meant to hear. Essentially, I'm the product of an affair myself, and that dad actually died from an overdose on pain meds after he found out. Well, I don't know why the $% my mom thought this would comfort me, but in reality it just gave me an unhealthy view of women for a while. After the story and calming down, she insisted that I man up and honor my commitment to these kids, because I'm the only father those kids had ever known. Up to this point I had always been a pushover, and I really considered her words to me for about 24 hours before I completely snapped. I called my fiancée and told her I had to stay the night at my mom's house because of a family issue, and she offered to make us dinner, which I declined. At this point, the twins are about 6 months, the boys are 2.5 years and 5 years old. I won't lie and say that I felt nothing for these kids, but it was hard to look them in the face and I knew I was done being their father. I knew this would tear them up and damage them, but I couldn't stand to hear them say dada to me, because every time it was like a knife in my heart. I kept my cool and did not expose anything, and my mom did not say anything. I'll assume because she thought I was manning up. I spoke to an attorney because I wanted to get myself off the birth certificates of these children, and I thought I could seamlessly slip out of this situation because we were not married. Unfortunately, after going through the paperwork and financials, since I had tangled much of our finances and I took on a fatherly role, I would be responsible for at least the boy's child support and she would get equity in the house and my side businesses. Basically, the lawyers said that I would likely be on the hook for something like 25% of my income for many years to come. I pretty much ghosted my lawyers after paying them their initial fee because I did not like the idea of state-enforced cucking. The revenge starts here. I started to make a plan to disappear and leave them all with as little as possible. The start of this was destroying all of my passive income streams and getting myself fired. Getting myself fired was easy, but it got a bit cringe. Basically did some of the stuff from Office Space, smashed an office printer in the courtyard, didn't do anything while working from home except send memes to cowhawkers, but I did not do anything to clients because my boss was actually a friend of mine. But my office mates had a good time watching this. After this, I did not even try to file for unemployment and began living off our savings. My ex-fiance let me handle all the financials despite both of our names being on everything, so she did not notice our account slowly draining of money and the financials going to chaos because I left her checking account filled with a few thousand. Credit card debt skyrocketed because Elle stopped paying our cards lol. I sat there for months wondering if I should end it and follow in the footsteps of my would-be father, but ultimately decided against it. I got ancestry test kits for the kids in an effort to find who their actual father was, because I was hoping to get them away from my ex, but this resulted in even weirder findings. Essentially, the oldest child was a cousin slash half brother to his siblings, and so the prison guy's brother must have gotten her pregnant. Also, I did not see any family members from the test that L thought would be a good fit. So that was the end of that investigation. I also tried to distance myself from my mom, as I had become disgusted by what she did to my dad and her newfound cheater allegiance with my ex. I formulated a plan to get away, far away, from everything by just vanishing on a hiking trip. I really hyped up this hiking trip and claimed I would be in the insert location here for a week alone with my thoughts in the trails. Before the trip, I took the then 6-year-old out for ice cream and cried for the second time in my adult life. The 6-year-old was obviously distraught over seeing his dad cry and started trying to calm me down. I guess I was crying that I had to leave him, and I told him I was sorry dozens of times, but I think he was just confused about the situation. I was more concerned about losing him because I knew he was not my child, and I was able to form a bond anyways. Left that afternoon and actually made my way to the lodge and checked in. Now the next part 1 will mostly skip, because I'm not sure if it was legal or illegal or whatever, but cut to 6 months later, and I have a new name, and live in a new city, where I was able to restart my career, and was slowly working toward my old income status again. I started stalking my ex on Facebook and other social media. I won't lie, it was cathartic to say the least. The chaos of them trying to get into accounts must have been hell, and she figured out that our comfortable finances were not so comfortable after all. Begging for money on Facebook is so trashy. Once again, I won't mention the legal stuff, but a lot of people went looking for me and I considered phoning the police to let them know that I was okay, but decided against it. Eventually had to pay a hefty fine for this, but it was well worth it. I worked on myself for a long time and got into great shape. Lost my religion and descended into a hedonistic lifestyle. I became unrecognizable. I continued stalking this woman for about a year when I heard she was dating a new guy and got pregnant almost immediately. Of course, my mom was still in her life taking care of my supposed children while she was doing God knows what. Then on the 1-year anniversary of me leaving, she posted a memorial page for me. This made me decide that my revenge was not quite done and decided to call up my brother and let him know all was alive. My brother and I had drifted over the past 10 years, but he was blood and was always there when I was younger. I told him why Vertical Bar did what I did, and we caught up, and I asked him not to tell anyone yet and he agreed. But then he told me about my mom and my ex-fiance suing my insurance company to honor my life insurance. Somehow, she had managed to keep up this policy going despite its hefty cost. The payout would be substantial, 7 figures, and she would be awarded the premiums that she had paid since my alleged death if she won. Well, I'm not the kind of uncivilized person that would defraud an insurance company, so I started my plans, drove the 1,000-mile journey to my old city when I heard she had an upcoming hearing, and listened to Highway to Hell half the way down. I went to the court early and sat down. Now at this time I had grown a beard, lost 60 pounds, and generally looked good. I looked so different that my fiance and mother passed right by me in the court without giving me a second look. I thought they would be meeting in a big courtroom, and I was already planning to barge in and yell something about objecting and being a cringe-lord like usual. But they ended up going to a small room with some lawyers from the insurance company. I decided frick it and knocked on the door several times until they opened it. They were all confused to see this scraggly dressed man with a beard, and I simply said, I believe you are trying to settle the issue of whether I'm dead. My ex-fiance realized it was me almost immediately and let out a gasp or something. but the lawyers were just confused. Everyone ended up stepping outside the room and a whirlwind erupted, and the bailiffs were called over. My ex screamed and slapped me, and they had to actually put handcuffs on her. This was a big deal for the insurance company, I guess, and the lawyer's boss/client and everything. Even a detective showed up, and I started to regret coming, but I gave my statement and did not really lie about anything, but I was vague about where I was currently living. I ended up staying in town for almost a month, and it was a crazy month in a cheap motel. I showed evidence of my ex's cheating to anyone who cared, and I tried to meet with the kids, but the youngest did not know me, and the then 7-year-old told me to fuck myself, which is fair, I guess. The police were pissed off and started civil litigation for the costs of searching for me. A detective or something actually flew in from another state to question me. Luckily this whole time I did not get arrested for anything, as I did not want my fingerprints being linked to my new name and such. Essentially I had to pay a large fine, and immediately paid the fine in cash to the surprise of the police. As far as I was concerned, I was done with this town. My ex-fiance served me a civil lawsuit for multiple different things and my mom helped, but I was a leaf in the wind long before anything came of it. I'm back in my new city and never plan to go back. I stopped spying on them after a few months of ruining her insurance plans and moved on with my life. This happened some years ago and I'm much better off now, but I'm tired now and need to go to sleep. If there is interest, I will let you know what happened with me after all this. Ali showed up and asked for statements.